vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by USA Today. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from USA Today for the 11th day of May. Your reader for the first hour is Tom Scanlon. As always, we start on page 1 of USA Today, and our first article is titled, "Politics Soon to Get Even More Polarized. The Redistricting Wars Are Raging." What happens next? History provides a little guidance because never before has there been a cross-country campaign to redraw congressional districts at mid-decade and on the fly. But the repercussions, both immediate and far-reaching, are likely to bolster Republican prospects in the midterms, weaken the political middle, reduce minority representation in Congress, and intensify the nation's polarization. Texas Republicans, urged on by President Donald Trump, began the redistricting bidding last August. California Democrats responded in kind. An U.S. Supreme Court ruling April 29th opened the floodgates even as the November elections loom. Texas will be the biggest one, Trump had boasted to reporters at the White House in July, predicting that the turnout to be accurate, and that'll be 5 seats. In all, 8 states have redrawn their congressional districts over the past year in search of a political edge, though some of the new maps still face court challenges. The new lines in 6 states are designed to imperil incumbent House Democrats in Florida, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, and Tennessee, as well as Texas. The new map in California is intended to help defeat up to 5 Republican members. But an effort to redraw the congressional map in Virginia to flip up 4 GOP-held seats was rejected May 8 on procedural grounds by the state Supreme Court, a seismic setback for Democrats. In Utah, a state judge ordered the Republican-controlled state legislature to abide by anti-gerrymandering proposition passed by voters in 2018. That created a House district centered in Salt Lake City that Democrats are favored to carry. And bottom line, Republican candidates now face friendlier terrain in 14 House districts, Democrats in 6. In a political world where the GOP's House majority is just 5 seats, those inch-by-inch advantages could temper Republican losses in the midterms despite the headwinds of an unpopular war and high gas prices. And there's no ceasefire yet. Redistricting isn't over this year. Tennessee didn't tarry. A week after the Supreme Court ruling weakened the Voting Rights Act was handed down, the volunteer state legislature approved and Republican Governor Bill Lee signed a redistricting plan designed to vanquish the state's only Democratic-leaning House district. The district, which had been centered on Memphis, was split among 3 predominantly GOP districts. The new lines running down the middle of Beale Street and stretch hundreds of miles to the suburbs of Nashville. 3 other southern states are scrambling to try to redraw their congressional lines too. In Alabama and South Carolina, Republicans hope to make one Democratic-held House district in each state lean more to the GOP. In Louisiana, Republican Governor Jeff Landry delayed the primaries to give time to redraw districts with the goal of flipping 1 or 2 Democratic seats. The number of competitive congressional seats has already been shrinking, both a consequence of and a contributor to the nation's sharp political divide. Of the 435 House districts, no more than 18 remain toss-ups, and the nonpartisan Cook Political Report with Amy Walter estimates. That's the smallest number since independent analyst Charlie Cook began publishing his ratings more than 4 decades ago. The leaders of both parties may think it's good for their political fortunes, said Dan Webb, a former U.S. attorney and board member of the bipartisan group No Labels. But it's terrible for America and the vast political center. Politicians from districts that are safely Republican or safely Democratic have little electoral incentive to reach across party lines during campaigns or in office. Winning their party's nomination all but guarantees a victory in the general election, and the prime risk to another term is failing to satisfy the most partisan voices. The Louisiana versus Calais decision on the Voting Rights Act is all but certain to reduce the number of districts with a majority of minority voters, and that's likely to reduce the number of racially diverse members of Congress. By November, majority-minority districts are likely to have been redrawn in Alabama, Florida, Louisiana, Tennessee, and Texas. South Carolina Republicans hope to target the district of Representative Jim Clyburn, the only African American in the state's congressional delegation and former House Majority Whip. The impact is expected to accelerate after the 2030 census prompts redistricting in almost every state. Nearly 70 House districts that had been covered by Voting Rights Act protection would be open to change. That's likely to lead to the sharpest decline in the number of black members of Congress since 1877, during the Reconstruction after the Civil War. Then, the new Congress had 4 fewer black representatives than the previous one. Of the current 119th Congress, 133 House members are black, Hispanic, Asian American, or multiracial, according to Pew Research Center. That's a record, though Congress remains less racially and ethnically diverse than the United States as a whole. The geographic base for nearly 3/4 of those members are majority-minority districts, with no longer can count on being protected. Most of the new maps look less like a grid and more like abstract art, with tendrils in red and blue. That was also true of some of the majority-minority districts that are being erased. In Texas, for instance, the new congressional lines zigzag through the big cities, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and San Antonio, in an effort to divide their Democratic-heavy precincts into sprawling Republican-dominated territory. That's not new, of course. The word gerrymandering was dubbed in 1812 to describe a district redrawn by then Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry that looked with a little imagination like a salamander. Today, a clutch of states that didn't have the time or the political momentum to redistrict in 2026 are looking at the possibility of redrawing lines next year. Those efforts may well be spurred if this year's redistricting helps Republicans blunt their expected losses. In Mississippi, the state legislature already has scheduled a special session in late May to review the state Supreme Court districts. In Georgia, Republican Governor Brian Kemp said the state's likely to draw new congressional maps before the 2028 elections. Some Republican officials are discussing redistricting in other red-leaning states, among them Arizona, Kansas, Nebraska, and New Hampshire. So are some Democratic leaders in such blue-leaning states as Colorado, Illinois, Maryland, New York, New Jersey, and Washington State. It's time to fight fire with fire, Democratic New York Governor Kathy Hochul vows. All is fair in love and war. And this is a war. Our next article is titled Antivirus Quarantine Next for Cruise Ship Travelers. They'll be in hospitals in their home countries. The author is Catherine Palmer with several associates. The cruise ship at the center of a hantavirus outbreak arrived in Spain on May 10th, and officials started the process of moving groups of passengers back to their home countries to begin quarantining. Once the MS Hondius anchored near Tenerife, Spanish nationals embarked on small boats were taken to shore. They were taken to the airport where they'll be flown to Madrid and taken to a hospital. Passengers from France, Canada, and Netherlands left later in the day. Americans were expected to leave by day's end. One French passenger showed some signs of symptoms on a repatriation flight, officials confirmed, which could increase the global tally of cases. The World Health Organization said on May 8th that 8 people had fallen ill in cases linked to the ship, including 3 who died. A Dutch couple and a German national. 6 of these people were confirmed to have contracted the virus, with another 2 suspected cases, the WHO said. Americans will be taken to Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska, where some are expected to be transported to the National Quarantine Center at the University of Nebraska. But Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, director of the National Institutes of Health, said some Americans may be able to quarantine at home with support from local health officials. Speaking to reporters at the White House on May 8th, President Donald Trump said he's been briefed about the hantavirus situation. It's very much, we hope, under control, he said, adding that we have a lot of great people studying it. It should be fine, we hope, he said. Top American health officials, including the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, have said they're actively monitoring and responding to the outbreak, though the risk to the United States remains extremely low. The WHO has recommended a 42-day quarantine period for passengers aboard the ship starting from May 10th. It's also assessed the virus risk to the public as low. American cruise ship passengers headed into quarantine for possible hantavirus exposure are traveling to a one-of-a-kind facility. The Training, Simulation, and Quarantine Center at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, is the only federally funded national quarantine unit in the United States, according to its website. The 20-bed unit provides unmatched quarantine monitoring and care for those exposed to high-consequence pathogens, the website says. The facility opened in 2019, just before the outbreak of COVID-19. The rooms are single occupancy with at least 300 square feet of living space, bathroom facilities, exercise equipment, and internet access. The room employed a technology called negative pressure, which ensures potential pathogens remain inside. Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove, director of the WHO's Department of Epidemic and Pandemic Management, said last week that hantavirus is very different from coronavirus and does not spread the same way. I want to be unequivocal here. This is not SARS-CoV-2. This is not the start of a COVID pandemic, she said. This is an outbreak that we see on a ship and there's a confined area. But this is not the same situation we were in 6 years ago. In a contained setting like a cruise ship, close quarters can amplify risk. Infectious disease expert Dr. Sukrit Dwivedi of Hackensack Meridian Ocean University Medical Center told USA Today. Health authorities are appropriately emphasizing contact tracing, isolation, and monitoring of close contacts, he said. The overall risk to the general public remains low, as hantaviruses do not spread easily like respiratory viruses such as flu or COVID-19. Hantaviruses are a group of viruses that naturally infect rodents and are occasionally transmitted to humans through contact with rodent urine, feces, or saliva. The WHO has said the hantavirus involved cruise ship outbreaks is the Andes virus, the only strain known to be capable of limited transmission between humans, linked to close and prolonged contact. In humans, hantavirus infections can cause 2 serious syndromes: hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS, which affects the lungs, and hemorrhagic fever with renal symptoms. HFRS, which affects the kidneys. Hantavirus is the same infection that killed pianist and businesswoman Betsy Arakawa, the wife of late actor Gene Hackman. Hackman and Arakawa were both found dead in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home February 2025. Hackman, age 95, died from natural causes. Arakawa died from hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. While Arakawa's death and the infections among those on board the MV Hondius both centered on hantavirus, the cases are different because of the suspected transmission. Arakawa is believed to have contracted the virus from the rodent droppings found around her and Hackman's home, while some of the infected cruise ship passengers are suspected to have gotten sick from each other. You're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 20 minutes after the hour. Our next article is titled, Drones Set to Deploy to Safeguard Schools. System offers new tools to foil gunmen on campus. The author is Eileen Zafro-Keene. Dateline, Deltona, Florida. From 2022 until 2024, there were 1,000 school shootings across the country, 10 times more than just a decade earlier, and about 800 people were killed or wounded in those shootings. With brutal realities like that, schools are continually looking for additional ways to protect their students and staff, and a Florida school is about to add another layer of protection. Deltona High School has been selected to be part of a pilot program that provides drones equipped to disrupt a school shooter in as little as 15 seconds after the assailant begins to wield a gun. It could take 3 to 8 minutes for a police officer to arrive in a similar situation. The Campus Guardian Angel system Deltona High will use in a few months deploys non-lethal drones immediately upon receiving an emergency alert to bring real-time video to law enforcement on their phones and computers, and using sirens, flashing lights, and pepper spray pellets to distract, even stop a shooter. Drones can also be piloted to slam into an assailant and do very rapid and distracting loops around an attacker's head. They're designed to save lives by being a constant obstacle and distraction for a shooter. Wallalosa County School is one of 3 districts in Florida selected to participate in the pioneering initiative. The Florida legislature has approved just over $500,000 in funding to be divided among 3 school districts for the 1-year pilot program. Deltona High, which already has a metal detector and School Guardian, plans to go live with the program in August, after school officials had a few months to test the equipment and get familiar with the system. Pilot programs using the specialized drones to protect students are also about to get underway in Georgia, Texas, Illinois, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Campus Guardian Angel is a new commercial service offered by Mithril Defense, a Texas-based company leading advancements in drone technology for safeguarding students and staff during active shooter incidents. One of the company's founders, Bill King, is a former Navy SEAL with 32 years of military experience. An official invite-only unveiling of the program on May 1st at Deltona High, the program's founders explained how the drones work and what happens when they're deployed. School officials would alert the company's headquarters in Texas, where employees would gather basic information on the situation and activate their team. Could immediately see inside and outside the school using integrated technology. Pilots at the company headquarters would direct the drones, which are safely stored inside the school when not in use. The drones can reach the suspect in just a few seconds. Rather than replacing any law enforcement function, the drones provide responding officers with real-time audio and visual intelligence so they can move faster, more safely, and more effectively when they get there. The drones can break through glass windows and glass on doors when needed. They can talk to the shooter, listen to what's going on, and record what happens with video and audio. Most importantly, the drones can help buy law enforcement precious time to save lives. If a suspect tries to shoot one of the drones, it could damage the equipment, but the shooter will be directing their attention away from potential victims. And if a drone is damaged or destroyed, another can be deployed immediately. The drones are equipped to confront and stop a threat without lethal force by using high-intensity strobes, sirens, audio commands, pepper spray, gel, and high-speed kinetic hits on the shooter's body. The goal is to keep constant pressure on the shooter, make it difficult for an attacker to see, breathe, move, focus, or target victims. The drones feature encryption and are integrated with other security measures, ensuring they are activated only in response to verified threats. The drones use the same encrypted networks that are used in the highest levels of classified communication protocols for the U.S. military, intelligence services, and top executive agencies. The drones are American-made, built with security as a design priority, and not vulnerable to the kinds of network-based hacks that might affect consumer technology. The Wallacea County School Team and the Campus Guardian Angel teams have confirmed and extensively tested the system's integrity. The drones are operated entirely by trained human professionals, not artificial intelligence. When the drones are activated, expert pilots based on Campus Guardian Angel's Tactical Operation Center in Austin take direct real-time control of each drone. Response team includes former SWAT operators, special operations veterans, and some of the top competitive racing drone pilots in the country. Every judgment call, including target identification, is made by a human being. The drones are stored in secured enclosures, remain completely dormant during normal school operations. They will not monitor students during school day and will play only in the event of a declared credible threat level emergency. Deltona High is 39 drones, and about 2,500 drones would be needed to equip the district's 85 schools. Our next article, let me cue it up here. Is titled, ICE Preparing Next Wave for Deployments. Records, plans for 330 people in 40 plus states. Hundreds of new immigration and customs enforcement officers and staff are being sent across the country to bolster immigration enforcement in big cities such as New York and Houston, and tiny towns including Derby, Vermont, and Caribou, Maine. Federal purchasing records show. The records are for co-working style offices and desks, but not detention facilities. They offer a rare but narrow behind-the-scenes glimpse at how White House and Department of Homeland Security officials are preparing to ramp up immigration enforcement nationwide as billions of dollars flow into DHS and its agencies under last summer's federal spending plan. ICE plans to deploy about 330 people in cities in more than 40 states, along with Puerto Rico, according to records reviewed by USA Today. Texas will receive the most, with 49 people deployed. Other cities targeted for increased ICE presence include Miami, Atlanta, Baltimore, Nashville, and Seattle. Smaller locations, including Concho, Arizona, Manhattan, Kansas, and Hot Springs, South Dakota. It's not immediately clear how many of the locations on the list already have ICE or Customs and Border Patrol presence, or if the officers are new hires or relocations. The new assignments come several months after the Trump administration sharply curtailed its use of high-profile and controversial sweeps and raids in cities such as Minneapolis, where 2 American citizens were fatally shot by federal agents in January. White House officials now appear to be ramping up detention and deportation efforts under new Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin told Newsmax on May 9th that we haven't missed a beat. We're still on track, pushing as hard as we can. We're just doing it in a different way. White House Border Czar Tom Homan said the administration is preparing a new surge of enforcement to remove people who entered during the Biden administration, particularly in cities where local police don't cooperate with federal agents. He shrugged off suggestions that the administration was backing down under political pressure. You ain't seen expletive yet, Homan told attendees at the May 5th Border Security Expo in Phoenix. You'll see more ICE agents than you've ever seen before, so congratulations. Homan made similar comments in July 2025, a month after the military and federal agents flooded the streets downtown Los Angeles, and 2 months before a similar effort in Chicago known as Operation Midway Blitz. President Donald Trump campaigned heavily in 2024 on tough immigration enforcement, promising to deport 1 million people a year. Trump said at the time that enforcers would focus primarily on the worst of the worst, like rapists and murderers. Trump administration has carried out 447,277 removals from January 19, 2025 through April 4th of this year, most recent date for which data were available. Public sentiment began turning against the White House in 2025 as officers, using military-style tactics, round up large numbers of people whose only crime was illegally entering the United States, chasing them through farm fields or Home Depot parking lots. As of April 4th of this year, 35% of people in immigration detention had no criminal record or pending criminal charges, according to USA Today data. Now, half of all Americans, including 25% of those who voted for Trump as president, said the mass deportation campaigns and ICE deployments have been too aggressive, according to an April poll conducted for Politico. Homan and some other administration officials argue that anyone caught living illegal in the United States should be deported whenever immigration enforcers find them, regardless of whether they have any additional criminal record. We had a historic illegal immigration crisis for 4 years, so what's required now? Homan told CBS News. A historic mass deportation to deal with these people who entered the country illegally. Many released in this country illegally, many of whom have no case in this country to be here. After the deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Good in January in Minneapolis during immigration sweep protests, Trump promised a softer touch, but said he remained committed to mass deportations. He fired DHS Secretary Kristi Noem in March and replaced her with Mullin, who's maintained a deliberately lower profile. We purposely wanted to be a little more quiet, Mullin told Newsmax. I wanted to get DHS out of the headlines so our agents could do their job without being harassed by the media. Doesn't mean we're slowing down even a little bit. Mullin told Newsmax that immigration enforcers had detained 1,900 people nationally in a single day earlier in the week, deported 2,700 people in a week, and was holding more than 60,000 people in detention centers. Last summer, One Big Beautiful Bill Act gave DHS more than $170 billion to conduct immigration enforcement through 2029, including hiring tens of thousands of new ICE officers and CBP agents. In January, DHS said it already more than doubled ICE staffing from 10,000 to 22,000. Owen has warned mayors of Democratic cities that agents and officers would flood into their communities if they didn't start cooperating. Many cities across the country have adopted policies limiting how much assistance local police will give immigration officers. You're listening to a reading of today's USA Today and Niagara Frontier Radio reading service, and the time is 30 minutes after the hour. This means we change to the money section of USA Today. And let me look for our first article. Weighing Costs is the title. Ken Altucker is the author. Weight loss drugs fuel surge in prescription spending. Americans' voracious appetite for GLP-1 weight loss drugs has the nation on pace to spend more than $1 trillion on prescription drugs this year, a new report says. U.S. spending on prescription drugs in 2025 jumped nearly 13% to $915 billion and is projected to surpass $1 trillion in 2026, according to the report by the American Society of Health System Pharmacists, or ASHP, released April 30th. A major reason drug sales grew so much, popularity of the weight loss and diabetes drugs tirzepatide and semaglutide. Novo Nordisk semaglutide sold as Wegovy for weight loss, and Ozempic to treat type 2 diabetes ranked second at more than $59 billion last year. Eli Lilly's tirzepatide sold as Zepbound for weight loss, and Mounjaro to treat type 2 diabetes is the nation's top-selling drug, generates wholesale purchases of nearly $63 billion 2025, the ASHP report said. Novo Nordisk semaglutide sold as Wegovy for weight loss, and Ozempic to treat type 2 diabetes ranked second, more than $59 billion last year. The number 3 drug, the blood thinner Eliquis, reached $29 billion in sales, less than half the amount spent on each of the weight loss drugs, ASHP's report said. The Society analyzed figures from a national database tracking wholesaler purchasing from drug manufacturers. Wholesalers then sell the drug to hospitals, clinics, retail and mail service pharmacies, home health agencies, long-term care facilities, and other healthcare entities. The amount consumers pay for the prescription medication changes based on rebates, discounts, and insurance coverage. Sales of the weight loss drug Zepbound and Wegovy continue to accelerate even as Lilly and Novo cut prices to entice more cash-paying customers. Surveys show nearly half of employer insurance plans cover the anti-obesity drugs. Novo and Lilly have courted consumers without insurance coverage by selling the medications directly through their respective pharmacies or through telehealth providers. They're a phenomenon, Eric Tichy, lead author of the ASHP report and a division chair of supply chain management at Mayo Clinic, said of the public's demand for GLP-1 drugs. The weight loss aspects make it a phenomenon when it bumps up against the obesity epidemic we have in the United States. On April 30th, Eli Lilly reported eye-opening quarterly review and profit growth fueled by sales of Zepbound and Mounjaro. The first quarter results came even as Lilly cut prices for Zepbound for U.S. customers who buy the medication directly from Lilly's pharmacy. In April, Lilly launched its weight loss pill Foundayo, a medication it expects will buoy sales this year. Spending on the popular GLP drugs is expected to accelerate with this year's launch of weight loss pills, Novo's Wegovy and Lilly's Foundayo. Both Lilly and Novo Nordisk are betting daily weight loss pills will be a popular option for consumers who want to avoid a shot or have been reluctant to take weight loss medication. Lilly CEO David Ricks told analysts that price cuts for the popular weight loss drugs have increased sales. Every time we reduce pricing, we see a pretty large expansion, Rick says. Although price cuts have enticed cash-paying customers, Lilly's Rick said it's important to broaden insurance coverage of the anti-obesity drugs. In late April, Medicare announced a bridge program to begin coverage of GLP-1 weight loss drugs from July 1st through December 31st of 2027. Under the program, Medicare enrollees will pay a $50 monthly copay to get the medication. The ASHP report projects U.S. spending on prescription drugs will jump 10% to 12% this year to surpass $1 trillion. Beyond the higher sales of GLP-1 drugs, overall drug spending is climbing because of greater use by patients. Reports said about 1% of overall drug spending can be attributed to higher drug prices. Still, other reports show drug price increases are common. As of January 9th, companies raised list prices more than 850 drugs by a median 4% over 2025, according to data from 46 Brooklyn Research, a drug pricing nonprofit. In some widely used drugs such as Eliquis and Jardiance slashed prices by 43% and 44% respectively, 46 Brooklyn reported. In 2025, cancer drugs accounted for the largest and fastest growing category of drug spending in clinics and hospitals. Pembrolizumab, sold under the brand name Keytruda, was the top grossing oncology drug in both clinics and hospitals, the ASHP report said. One factor driving higher use of prescription drugs might be changes to Medicare coverage policies, Tichy said. Medicare implemented a $2,100 cap on out-of-pocket drug spending 2026 for older Americans in Medicare Part D, which covers pharmacy or mail-order prescriptions. CAP is part of the Inflation Reduction Act, 2022 Federal Climate and Healthcare Bill, and also empowered Medicare to negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies. That might be driving the more use of higher-cost drugs because patients are having to pay less, Tichy said. Our next article is titled Multi-Generational Housing Rises in U.S. The author is Andrea Require. Earlier this year, Pearl Emmons, a real estate agent in the Boston area, helped former clients buy a new home. The couple, grandparents in their 70s, had decided they wanted to move closer to their daughter and her growing family. Much closer. The two couples wound up buying a two-family home together in Somerville, Massachusetts. Grandma and Grandpa live on the first floor, and their daughter, son-in-law, and two youngsters reside on the top level. The grandparents frequently provide child care for the young ones, Emmons said, and live so closely it makes those interactions much easier. In addition, she said, I think that for anybody with aging parents, it's nice to be able to be close to them for support reasons. As the cost of living and housing surges, Americans are increasingly opting to live with other generations of their family. As Emmons' clients show, there's a caregiver convenience factor at work. It also stands to reason that cutting down on travel expenses saves money. A recent analysis, however, finds that multi-generation homes are often significantly more expensive than standard properties. Their growing popularity, in spite of that, suggests the other advantages make it worth it to many families. Report out May 5th from Realtor.com estimates there are 4 million multi-generational households, representing 4.5% of all owner-occupied houses as of 2024. That's up a bit from 4.3% share 2019 before the pandemic. The report defines multi-generation houses, properties whose descriptions include keywords such as guest house, in-law suite, or granny flat. Realtor.com does not include two-family houses such as the one Emmons helped her client buy, triplexes, and other similar homes because data about those properties are not tracked uniformly. That suggests multi-generational housing might be far more widespread than the report highlights if arrangements like these are factored in. The analysis shows the median list price for a multi-generation house on Realtor.com was $709,000 2025, roughly 65% higher than the $429,900 median for a standard listing. Though multi-generation homes are typically larger, they're also more expensive at the most basic level, commanding $262 a square foot versus $215 a square foot for standard homes. The extra cost may be because multi-generation homes contain specific features like in-law suites, additional kitchens, and multiple entries, the report noted. And even with higher price tags, multi-generational listings receive 13.5% more page reviews than standard homes and sold in the same time frame. In real estate, however, everything is local. Emmons said that in the smallest city of Somerville, where the extended family bought, two-family homes are much less expensive at the per square foot level, so much so that she frequently advises clients that there may be an untapped bargain. On the other hand, that may be because such properties typically have deferred maintenance and require more TLC before a family or families can move in, she added. Any sweat equity families put in may be well worth it. Hannah Jones, a senior analyst at Realtor.com, put it in a release. A sense of shared purpose and care is at the heart of multi-generational living, a housing arrangement that's quietly shaping American family life. You're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 43 minutes after the hour. Let me cue up our next article here. Here we go. Borrowers on edge regarding interest rate. The Federal Reserve wait-and-see approach to interest rate cuts in 2026 puts borrowers on edge, wondering when they'll get a break on car loans, mortgages, and credit cards. Unfortunately for now, consumers will need to create their own lucky breaks. Many experts told us that we'd surely see some interest rates cut in the first half of 2026. Nope. The Fed has held rates steady for each of the first three meetings of 2026, January, March, and April. Inflation is once again top of mind. On April 29th, the Federal Reserve announced that its policy committee decided to keep short-term interest rates the same. The target range for the federal funds rate remains at 3.5% to 3.75%. The Fed took the same stay put approach on March 18th, stating that the implications of developments in the Middle East for the U.S. economy are uncertain. In April announcement, the Fed stated developments in the Middle East are contributing to a high level of uncertainty about the economic outlook. If the Fed isn't offering borrowers relief, well, it means that borrowers must do all they can to make sure they qualify for the lowest rates possible and shop around for deals on credit card rates, mortgages, and car loans. Yes, the Fed isn't slashing interest rates, but many consumers can make a variety of moves to improve their chances of finding lower than average interest rates on many loans. Car loans. The average annual percentage rate for new car purchases was 6.9% in the first quarter, up from 6.7% in fourth quarter last year, but down from 7.1% in the first quarter of 2025, according to Edmunds, a car shopping website. The average amount financed for new cars climbed to a record high $43,899 in the first quarter of 2026. Someone who's financing a $43,000 car at 7% for a new car loan would likely pay more than $9,000 in interest over the life of the car loan, according to Ivan Drury, Director of Insights at Edmunds. If your credit is good to excellent, you can easily do far better than that by shopping around for a car loan and possibly shopping around for a car or SUV or truck that offers a great promotional interest rate. Credit scores matter so much more when it's tougher to find a low rate, which is why you absolutely must pay bills on time. Make sure to keep balances low on credit cards and not take on too much debt. Consider this data from Cox Automotive. The average loan rate for super prime borrowers, those with credit scores in the 760 to 850 range, took out a new car loan in April was 5.3%. That compares with an average rate of 9.9% on a new car loan for borrowers with a prime rating with credit scores in the 660 to 719 range. Take out a $48,000 new car loan where the consumer is taking out a $42,000 loan. A 9.9% rate would translate into a payment of $776 a month on a 72-month car loan. The lower 5.3% rate would mean a monthly payment of $682 or savings of $94 a month. In the long run, a $48,000 car could up costing $61,870 for a borrower who has a credit score that's just mediocre, said Mark Shermer, Cox Automotive spokesperson. And by contrast, the car would end up costing $55,123 over the 72-month car loan if you have strong credit and qualify for a lower interest rate. Jeremy Robb, chief economist at Cox Automotive, said the Fed is holding back cutting rates now as policymakers weigh elevated inflation risk against a labor market that continues to send mixed signals. He noted in a report that nearly 2 months of sustained higher energy prices reinforce a wait-and-see approach and complicate the near-term path outlook for possible reductions in interest rates. Car loan rates are likely to remain higher for a longer period of time, he said. Inflation story could improve in the second half of the year, Robb said, but in the current environment, there's little reason to expect any movement by the Fed. And anyone who spots an ad or two on TV or elsewhere knows that automakers are touting some pretty low rates on specific makes and models. Head-turning financial deals aren't offered across the board, but a few are out there. If you're brand agnostic and have relatively good credit, low interest rates offers could easily save thousands of dollars over the life of the loan, Drury at Edmunds said. A dealer could offer captive financing, such as 0% rate offered by the financing arm of an automaker if you qualify. In April, roughly 6% of all dealer finance deals had rates of 1.99% or lower, according to Edmunds. Some models, according to Drury Research, including the Buick Envision, Ford Mustang Mach-E, Mazda CX-70, Chevrolet Bolt, and Hyundai Santa Fe, Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. Drury recommends asking about other low-rate deals, even if the one advertised doesn't work for you. Other ways to qualify for loan rates: do your best to keep a higher credit score. Shop at local credit unions, banks, and elsewhere for a lower rate car loan before walking into the dealership. Check out your credit report, spot any errors, and fix them before applying for any loan. Consumers don't often realize that the interest rate they pay for auto loan isn't predetermined based entirely on their credit score or credit history. Experts say consumers may run into hidden finance markups that benefit dealerships, not the consumer. Pays to shop around for a loan. The new deduction for car loan interest under the One Big Beautiful Bill applies on 2025, 26, 27, and 28 federal income tax returns. Might save many people a few $100s or more on their tax bill. The deduction, which can be claimed even if you take the standard deduction, does not apply to leases or used cars. The vehicle must have a final assembly in the United States. Check the VIN decoder to look at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration website to confirm the location of final assembly. In 2025 returns, more than 1 million taxpayers claimed the deduction for new car loan interest on their federal returns as of April 14th, the day before tax day, for vehicles bought in 2025, according to the U.S. Treasury Department's data. The average deduction was more than $1,800. The amount that's claimed on tax returns for car loan interest will vary each year, as more interest is typically paid in the initial years of a car loan. How much you save in tax dollars would vary based on your tax bracket. At a 22% tax rate, tax savings would be $396 and an $1,800 deduction. Deduction phases out for higher income households. Simplest terms, many tax websites note that the deduction for auto loans interest is no longer available at a modified adjusted gross income of $150,000 for single filers and $250,000 for married couples filing a joint return. What about credit cards? Well, the average credit card rate offered to consumers now is 19.57%, down a bit from 20.09% a year ago, according to Bankrate.com. Bankrate.com uses the midpoint of the range of credit card rates offered by more than 100 popular cards from the 50 largest issuers. Looking for a better rate? Check your mailbox and shop online. If your credit score is good, says a FICO score of 670 or better, you might qualify for offers of zero on balance transfers in new purchases for a limited time, according to Ted Rossman, principal analyst for Bankrate.com. The best credit card deals are for new customers, Rossman said. You can get 0% on balance transfers in a new purchase for up to 21 months on some cards like Wells Fargo Reflect and U.S. Bank Shield Visa. Your credit card debt, and roughly half of cardholders do. Rossman recommends that you forget about rewards and focus on finding the best interest-busting credit card. You're able to get a 0% offer on a balance transfer, he said. Divide what you owe by the number of months you'll be covered by 0%, and then aim to pay off all that you owe over the next 21 months, if that's the length of that offer. Able to transfer $5,000 in credit card debt to a card offering 0% for 21 months. In that example, you can aim to pay $250 a month to annihilate all that credit card debt in less than 2 years. Well, you've got 0% on the table. Don't add new purchases since it's hard to hit a moving target, Rossman said. Consumers have low credit score, more than $5,000 or $6,000 in credit card debt, should consider working with a reputable nonprofit credit counselor such as Money Management International or GreenPath Financial Wellness, Rossman said. They have debt management plans along the lines of a 6 to 7% rate over 4 to 5 years, and they work with just about everyone, Rossman said. Overall, consumers automatically would have seen slightly lower rates on their credit cards in early 2006 if the Fed had cut short-term interest rates as many expected by now. Some had forecast 3/4 point rate cuts in the first half of 2026, but the outlook changed quickly. Mark Zandi, chief economist for Moody's Analytics, said the war in Iran dashed those expectations. The Fed's stance is to put rate cuts on hold amid extraordinary uncertainty, he said, much like what took place when the Trump administration imposed tariffs in 2025. It's unclear, Zandi said, whether the Fed will resume rate cuts amid the fallout from the Iran war. Slower economic growth and higher unemployment could be expected ahead, said Zandi, favoring rate cuts, but the uptick in inflation and fear that the inflation could go higher could make an argument for rate hikes in the future. What about mortgages? The average 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate hit 6.23% as of April 23rd. That's down from 6.3% the previous week, down from 6.8% a year ago. Mortgage rate you qualify to receive will vary based on a long list of factors, including your credit score, size of your down payment, and yes, how much you're willing to shop around. Mortgage rates really come down to how risk you look on paper, said Matt Schultz, chief credit analysis for Lending Tree. The best thing you can do is boost your credit score, lower your debt, put down as much as you comfortably can, Schultz said. A strategy for boosting your credit score, paying down credit card balances, can help your score surprisingly fast, as can correcting mistakes on your credit report if you find them. A buyer can comfortably put down 20% or more purchase price, typically can qualify for a lower rate, according to experts. The lender is taking less risk when you have more money invested in the property. You're listening to a reading of articles from USA Today for the 11th day of May on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We'll return for more readings after this short break. Your reader for the first hour was Tom Scanlon.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's issue of the USA Today. Your reader for this hour is me, Brian Mendola. Let's continue. NBA playoff takeaways. Lakers have no answer for OKC and its antics by Lorenzo Reyes of the USA Today. We have arrived at the middle of the conference semifinals, and the better squads out for the remaining 8 NBA teams have started to emerge. There were 2 Game 3s on May 9th, and in both cases, the lower seeds played in their first game of their series at home. And both looked to avoid failing into deliberating the 0-3 deficits. The Cleveland Cavaliers did their part, fending off the Detroit Pistons rally in the second half to win 116-109, with the guard Donovan Mitchell leading the charge with 35 points. In the nightcap, the Los Angeles Lakers, however, lost to let the Oklahoma City Thunder seize the commanding 3-0 Western Series, leading with a 131-108 victory. And here are some of the takeaways from Game 3s. If you're arguing with the officials while playing the Thunder, it's already too late. Let's start with this. The NBA needs to change the way it officiates the contact. When the system allows for every manipulation, for every most minimal collisions, the system is broken. That said, the Lakers fell into the trap after Austin Reeves and most of the Lakers held a brief post-game conference at the center court with officials following the Game 2 of the Western Conference Series. And after Coach J.J. Redick laminated calls in the post-game press conference, it should have ended there, but Los Angeles repeated appeals to officiating crew throughout Game 3, which were self-defeating. And the reason why the Lakers lost? No. But when a team enters a game, let alone one against the defending champs and the overwhelming favorite to win the finals, things are hard enough. So making it seem like the Lakers are playing against Oklahoma City and the officiating crews was settling themselves up for failure. The reality is without Luka Doncic, Los Angeles needed to play nearly perfectly to have the chance in the series. Spending any mental and emotional energy battling against the officials was never going to be part of the formula. Does OKC get preferential treatment? No. The NBA has no incentive for that, but the Thunder, better than any team in the league, have learned how to exploit and manipulate the ways games are officiated to their benefit. As frustrating and difficult as it may be, the Lakers needed to either play fully in the game that OKC plays, flailing and exacerbating the contact at every turn, or play with more discipline. But in this case, when it comes to the drawing fouls, it's hard to out-thunder the Thunder. It is also worth noting that the Lakers went 18 of 25 the line, while Oklahoma City just went 8 out of 10. Knicks remain the best team to beat. No team is playing better hoops than the Eastern Conference than the New York Knicks, who is rolling through the 76ers even as OG Anunoby is battling a hamstring issue that forced him out of Game 3 on May 8th. While New York is excelling on both offense and defense, Pistons have vulnerabilities that have been exposed over the playoffs. For one, All-Star center Jalen Duren, 11 points and 4 rebounds in 29 minutes, 17 seconds on May 9th, has become a role player and is simply not a reliable number 3 option, let alone number 2 threat. His backup, Paul Reed's, 11 points and 3 rebounds in 9 minutes and 46 seconds, nearly matched Duren's production in neither 20 fewer minutes on the court. With their talent depths with the Thunder feel inevitable. It's not just like they have the likely consecutive MVP as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or share the ball and play tightly within their system, but the Thunder are almost the deepest team in the NBA. Oklahoma City is rolling through the playoffs and posted a plus 128-point differential through the first 7 postseason games, which is mostly defending champs in NBA history. What makes the Thunder truly remarkable is how they scout and develop young players. A.J. Mitchell, who started only because Jalen Williams' hamstring, continues to be sidelined and led all the players with 24 points and 10 assists. This came after Jared McCain went off for 18 off the bench in Game 2. The Thunder are peaking, and no team is playing more composed, more cohesion basketball. Game 4 is set for 10:30 Eastern, May 10th on Prime Video. Cavs need James Harden from the final 2 minutes of Game 3. James Harden did nail a trio of massive buckets inside the final 2 minutes on May 9th. A step-back jumper, a floater in the line at the step-back three to score 7 consecutive points for Cleveland in the clutch. But the Cavaliers cannot simply rely on Donovan Mitchell's carrying this team back in the series with 35 points in every game. But consider this. Prior to the final 1 minute 29 seconds of the game, Harden was sitting on 12 points on a 5 of 11 shooting. He doesn't deserve credit for not forcing shots and letting the game come to him, but a dose of aggression earlier in the games will go a long way in trying to keep the series up. Coach Kenny Atkin showed an impulse amount of trust of Harden, but putting the ball in his hands down to the stretch. The Cavs hope it will carry over into Game 4 on May 11th, 8 Eastern Time on Peacock. In make or miss league, Detroit needs to find varied outlets. In the first half, the Pistons shot the 2 of 4, 14.3% of a three-point range. And while Detroit was fortunate to catch fire and hit the 7 of 11, 63.6%, from the deep second half, a second 16-point deficit at the half proved too much to overcome. This has been Detroit's weakness all season, so the Pistons need a way to find ways to generate easier looks in transition to help open up a three-point shooting. In Game 3, both teams committed 15 turnovers, yet Cavaliers turned those giveaways into 27 points, while Detroit produced only 19. Against OKC, turnovers, a killer. No team is better turning a stretch of careless ball handling into an avalanche. The Thunder are notorious for going on massive runs fueled by their own defense. Game 3 was no different. The Thunder forced the Lakers into 16 turnovers and converted those into 30 points. Many of those takeaways took place in the second half. It's not surprise then that Oklahoma City is outscored by the Lakers by 25 points after intermission. Cavs 5-0 at home. These playoffs, they need to do it on the road. Cleveland's inability its postseason to win away from the Rocket Arena is a significant concern. Granted, the Cavs obviously needed to take care of Detroit in Game 4 to make a series, but the Cavaliers have struggled to find an offense outside of Cleveland in 5 home games. Cleveland is arranging 119.2 points. On the road, that number plummeted to 100.2. The Cavaliers shot the ball an absurd 58.1% clip on May 9th. Our next article, Remembrance. Huge loss for Atlanta. Bobby Cox might be the most beloved manager in MLB history, by Bob Nightingale. I loved Bobby Cox. So did every soul who ever met the man. Those close to Cox knew this day was coming and were preparing since he suffered a massive stroke in 2019. Still, when the news hit on May 9th that he passed at the age of 84, it still hit hard, bringing tears and memories. Quote, "He's in a better place," said former Atlanta manager Brian Snitker who visited Cox at least once on his homestead when he managed and told USA Today Sports he was the greatest influence in his baseball career. He continues, "I love the man. Bobby had a way of making everybody feel as if they were the most important person in the world." It was a sentiment shared throughout by anyone who knew Cox. The Hall of Fame manager who led Atlanta to 14 consecutive division titles, 5 pennants, and a World Series championship during his 21-year career with Atlanta. In the words of the Hall of Fame General John Schottenholtz, who worked alongside Cox as an architect of their dynasty, quote, "He is the heart and soul of the Braves," end quote. There may not have been more of a beloved manager in the history of the game than Cox. When his team struggled or a player was struggling, they would feel awful, not just for themselves, but not let Cox down. Quote, "Bobby is one of the best human beings any of us have ever met." Former Atlanta catcher Brian McCann. "He touched so many lives here. He's an icon. He is the Atlanta Braves." End quote. Hall of Fame center fielder Andrew Jones, who once was yanked from the game after failing to hustle in his rookie season, said he owes his career to Cox, where he became a 10-time Gold Glove outfielder who hit 434 home runs. Quote, "To be honest with you, Bobby's always been a second dad to me from the beginning of my career," Jones told USA Today Sports last summer. He continues, "He wanted you to do the right things and grow up the way he wanted. Obviously, we're not perfect, but we wanted to carry out ourselves the way he wanted on and off the field." "I wouldn't have been the player I've been without Bobby Cox." Really, Cox had virtually every single person who walked through the doors of the organization, with Brian Duffy, who was once worked with the team's bat boy, recalling May 9th that Cox, quote, "made me feel as valued as any player. He was the best, the absolute best," Hall of Fame first baseman Fred McCaff told USA Today Sports. "Every player who played for Bobby to this day has never said a bad word about Bobby. He wasn't like any other managers in today's game when everyone is trying to be nicey nice and take care of the players. There was no need for us to have a team captain to tell anybody in the clubhouse that to do something right. Bobby would just do it himself. Even when I played for all of those great Braves games, there were times Bobby would close the door and just wear us out. No one would know about it. You knew exactly how he felt without reading it, or reading about it, or hearing about it from anywhere and anyone else. If you played for Cox, you looked at and acted like a professional, on and off the field. You didn't wear shorts or have a shirt untucked during batting practice. You didn't wear sunglasses that cover the A on your baseball cap. When traveling, sports jackets, collared shirts, and dress pants were required. There was no music in the clubhouse. If you wanted to listen to your own music, you put on a headset. If you wanted to see your kids, they had to wait outside. The way Cox figured it, not everyone liked the same genre of music, so why irritate every person, or even one person? Not everyone's going to have the best behaved children, so why let someone else's kids run around annoying players or staff members? Bobby had very few rules, Hall of Fame third baseman Chipper Jones said. Just basically show up on time, wear the uniform correctly, and play your ass off. You're listening to a reading of articles and features in the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 14 minutes past the hour. said Atlantic World Series hero David Justice. He is one of those guys that you would love to respect and just love and respect you. He was one of those lovable guys that allowed you to go out there and play the game. And if you play hard, you're going to be in his good graces. That's why everybody wanted to play for Bobby. There were plenty of times in recent years that the families and friends thought Cox wouldn't make it through the night. There was congestive heart failure, bouts with pneumonia, even COVID. And there were also blood clots as well. He's the toughest, strongest guy who I've ever been around. It's amazing, said Snicker. Cox, who had 8 children and 23 grandchildren, made a surprise visit to the 2024 to players and the staff with the entire team surrounding him for a picture. He was in a wheelchair and had trouble communicating, but acknowledged each player while they fought back tears. He was last at Truist Park on August 22nd, 2025, for the 30th anniversary celebration of the 1995 World Series, of the World Series team. Snicker, former manager of Freddie Gonzalez and former pitching coach Leo Mazzone, were regular visitors to see over Cox over the years. But it became more difficult. Cox's right-hand side was paralyzed, and he had more trouble communicating. He could understand everyone and religiously watch their games, but his condition just slowly kept deteriorating. It's just so tough, Hall of Famer third baseman Chipper Jones told USA Today Sports last summer. It's just so tough. I went over to his house a couple years ago, but he couldn't talk. It was just awkward being there. I haven't gone back since that day. It's just that I wanted to remember Bobby the way he was, not the way he is now. Cox may be gone now, but never, ever will be forgotten by those blessed to know him. Bobby is the most important person in franchise history, right there with Hank Aaron, Mazzone said. The Braves aren't who they are without Bobby Cox. He has meant everything to them, and always will. Looking back at Bobby Cox's career, former MLB manager Bobby Cox died at the age of 84. We are overcome with the emotion of the passing of Bobby Cox. Our treasured skipper, Bobby was the best manager to ever wear the Braves uniform. He led our team to 14 straight division titles, 5 National League pennants, and unforgettable World Series titles in '95. His Braves managerial legacy will never be matched, said the Braves. Bobby was the favorite among all the baseball community, especially those who played for him. His wealth of knowledge on player development and intricacies of managing the game were rewarded with a Sports Ultimate Prize in 2014. Enshrinement into the Baseball Hall of Fame. While he's best known for managing the Braves, Cox also managed the Toronto Blue Jays and was the first base coach when the New York Yankees won the World Series. His records and accomplishments. Baseball Hall of Fame inductee in 2014. World Series champion in 1995 with the Atlanta Braves. 2,504 career victories, 4th of all time. 4 Manager of the Year in 85 with the Blue Jays, 91, 04, and 05 with the Atlanta Braves. Led the Braves to 14 straight division championships from 91 to 2005, and from 94 was a strike season. Had 100 or more wins in 6 seasons. Was ejected 158 times, a MLB record. This article was done by Scooby Axon. Our next article, Aces Ring include the first-of-a-kind component. To celebrate the Las Vegas Aces' 3rd championship in 4 years, owner Mark Davis clearly spared no expense on a thoughtful and potentially trend-setting design. Davis was tasked with opening remarks for the team's ring ceremony ahead of the May 9th season opener against Phoenix Mercury, the Aces' 2025 WNBA Final Foe. Instead of a lengthy speech, Davis handed the microphone to Johnson's representative, who shared all the aspects of the commemorative jewelry the Aces were waiting to unveil. Set in 14 karat white gold, with more than 500 white and black diamonds to fit the team color scheme, the rings are nearly 11 carats. But that's not the kicker. After the players opened the rings, Davis announced the coolest feature on their own. Although they share a same bulky squared silhouette as any standard championship ring, at first glance, the Aces are two pieces in one. From the middle to the top part off to reveal another smaller and sleeker ring. According to Johnson, the built-in additional custom fashion ring is the first of its kind. The feature is specifically for women in the organization. There's one for the men's coaches, Davis said. For the women, we felt that they're big and they're kind of tough to wear out. He stopped for a moment to show the four-time MVP Aja Wilson and head coach Becky Hammon how to open the rings up, leading Wilson's jaws to drop. Now, they can wear them out to dinner, Davis gleefully exclaimed. In other details, the rings included a 3 1-carat diamond on the top that commemorates their 2022, 2023, and 2025 titles. On the left side, each recipient's name and position is featured in white gold to frame their diamond's encrusted jersey number. The motto for the Aces, most recently titled All In, is included on the right side and more diamonds above the WNBA logo. This is truly amazing, and said it was her to speak. We want to thank all the fans and everywhere that has supported us through every single game, every journey that we've been through. We are forever thankful and grateful. God has truly blessed us in this situation to get us 3 or 4 years, and now we got some work to do. Reese's Growth Poise emerged late in Dream debut by Megan Hall of the USA Today. Angel Reese's debut with the Atlanta Dream wasn't pretty, but she owned the hard parts even when things didn't go her way. The Dream trailed by as many as 19 points in the first half, and just about anything can go wrong offensively did. Atlanta shot just 36% of the floor. No player was in double figures, and Dream had 13 glaring turnovers. Reese also struggled as Atlanta couldn't find an early rhythm in the first half. The former LSU product couldn't connect at the cup. By halftime, she was just 1 of 5 from the field with the 3 points of the 9 rebounds. However, she never quit. And in the third quarter, she came alive. Reese showed off guard like footwork and balance, and she glided to the basket, though multiple defenders for a quick score. Moments later, she wasn't finishing at the rim, was poised and confident, and she perhaps hadn't shown before, and disrupting Minnesota's offense with her length and quick instincts. When the fourth quarter arrived, Reese made 2 critical layups under the 7 minutes remaining and helped Atlanta eat the Lynx's lead and made a game-saving blocks as time ran out and sealed the Dream 91-90 victory. It was tough for me, well, obviously, because I didn't finish well tonight, and I was really hard on myself. But I mean, this is what basketball is, and we talk about it all the time, and about the next best action, being able to be ready for the next possession, Reese said post-game. I knew I needed to come up for my teammates on the last possession and get that block, no matter what happened before that. So I just give kudos to my teammates for continuing to instill that confidence in me. My rookie year, I probably would have just melted and not be able to fight back, but being able to come out of the big blocks, so shout out to my teammates. Reese continued pursuit for getting better and hasn't gotten unnoticed. In games, her decision-making and processing of making strides as she adjusts to the Dream system Her finishes at the rim are not as crisp as they should be, but yet show improvement just over 1 month of the at her Atlanta tenure. Dreams head coach Carl Smesko has heaped praise on Reese since she arrived. He said her fast integration into the team started at practice habits and desire to be coached harder, which allowed 24-year-old to come up with a clutch on May 9th. Angel's been practicing great, and she's been getting the biggest and best moments. She had come up with a late layup on the offensive rebound, and then she had to block to win it, Semesko said. I do think at first she was just trying to feel her way around a little bit, but maybe first game nerves were with us. But then, just like she said, she's a total competitor. When it came down to the game at the end, we needed to play, and she made it. And I'm not surprised at all. She's that type of person. Moving on to the Lifeline section. Making waves, Billie Eilish and Nat Wolff. They're birds of a feather. Billie Eilish and Nat Wolff hit the Hollywood romance milestone on May 6th by making their red carpet debut as a couple. Wolff, 31, supporting Eilish, 24, in the Los Angeles premiere of her Hit Me Hard and Soft 3D concert tour. The Grammy Award-winning singer wore a green short-sleeve polo over her white button-down with a navy pleated skirt and a red crew socks, while the actor-musician wore a brown suit that paired and poised at the carpet, hugging and embracing each other with the cameras. Eilish and Wolff have been romancing and linked since March 2025 and had been attempted multiple award shows together since then. For Louise Dreyfus, Sheep Can Run Deep by Patrick Ryan in movies. Just call her Bagatha Christie. Bagatha Christie. And The Sheep Detectives in theaters now. Julie Louis-Dreyfus voices a shrewd ewe named Lily, whose favorite pastime is listening to her beloved shepherd, George, played by Hugh Jackman. They read mystery novels, but when George turns up dead one day on his rural English farm, Lily rounds up her flock to investigate his likely murderer, which leads him to an eccentric group of human suspects, played by Nicholas Brown, Molly Gordon, and Hong Chow, among others. It's a head-scratcher, and a head-scratching premise that allowed Louise Dreyfus, age 65, originally scoffed at it. My initial reaction was, yeah, this really isn't for me, the 11-time Emmy Award-winning actress said, seated at the Tribeca Hotel on that afternoon. Sheep who are detectives? I just couldn't imagine it. Let's continue this with a brief break. You're listening to a reading of articles and features on today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 28 minutes past the hour. But that changed when she read the script by Craig Mazin, HBO's The Last of Us, which thoughtfully explores the mortality and grief, surprisingly weighty themes for PG-rated kids flicks. A natural-born leader, Lily's helped band the flock together to face the tragedy and teaches them to accept a black sheep of the bunch. In turn, they support Lily as she struggles to accept George's death. It's a very unusual film in its fantasy whimsy, Louise Dreyfus says. At the same time, it has important themes of inclusion and the power of community, and particularly apt at this moment that we're living through. Based on a Leon Swan's 2005 novel, Three Bags Full, this movie has an emotional, thorough line about memory, how our loved ones are always us even after they die. Louise Dreyfus believes family films can be powerful tools in broaching tough subjects with children. She has two sons, Henry, 33, and Charlie at 28, with a husband, Brad Hall. When they were young, I remember watching Toy Story vividly. They're heartbreaking in that movie, and that was very meaningful to these kids growing up. It dealt with so many issues that were big. In Sheep Detectives, Lily has flocked and found comfort in the belief that when sheep die, they turn into clouds. In real life, many people discover solace in nature as they grieve, seeing their loved ones in everything from cardinals to rainbows. It's an idea that resonated with Louise Dreyfus, whose business mogul father, William, died in 2016 at the age of 84. I remember vividly at my father's funeral. I was holding a paper. I was thinking about him. Louise Dreyfus recalls speaking at his service, and out of nowhere, a huge grasshopper jumped on top of the paper and stayed there the entire time I was reading. I thought, well, this is meaningful. In the recent months, the Veep and Seinfeld star had been thinking about all of her friends like Catherine O'Hara, who died January from a pulmonary embolism at the age of 71. Both women came up with an improv comedy and got their big breaks on sketch series, Louise Dreyfus on Saturday Night Live and O'Hara on SCTV, before they moved to film and television sitcoms. I looked to her as the North Star in terms of comedy and her ability to do anything. Louise Dreyfus says she was fearless when it comes to improvisational, and I can't believe she's gone. She left this world way too early. Louise Dreyfus is partial to O'Hara's work in Christopher Guest's movies Waiting for Guffman and Best in Show, as well as Katharine Hepburn's impression in SCTV. Ultimately, there isn't any one thing she says. Everything she does is perfect. In music news and views, No Doubt blends personal with the spectacle by Melissa Ruggieri. From Las Vegas, Nevada, you got your seatbelts on? Gwen Stefani's asked in a voiceover moments after a 10-minute countdown clock struck zero. It was poised as the question, but it should have been a warning, considering the rockling ride of No Doubt steered for almost the next 2 hours at Las Vegas Sphere. The band Effervescence Stefani, bassist Tony Connell, drummer Adrian Young, guitarist Tom Dumont, and two talented utility players on horns, keys, and backing vocals, landed at the Unicorn of the venue May 6th for the first of 18-show residency. The reunion of one of the most innovative groups and hitmakers of the 1990s and early 2000s is celebrated its 30th anniversary of their landmark album, Tragic Kingdom. That point was acknowledged immediately with the title track and not played since 2009. Opening the show, motion simulating videos zip through a vibrant carnival. But the bigger purpose is to celebrate not just the album, but a career that survived romantic breakups, solo stardom for Stefani, tentative reunions, and now deserved a victory lap. I'm getting a little emotional up here, Stefani said a few songs into the concert. She looked into the sold-out crowd, dotted with combat boots, checkered ensembles, and pink-streaked hair, in homage to No Doubt's ska, pop, punk motive. Stefani praises exchanges of love. Stefani, now 56, was an age-defying whirlwind, whether scampering across the stage in black-tipped blonde ponytail, flying through excuse me, mister, or fluttering alphabet-esque fingernails, programming her banana yellow shorts over her fishnets, and black and white boots on different people. Every joy was palatable. Though No Doubt's reunited briefly over the past couple years in 2024 at Coachella and last year at the Fire Aid benefit concert, their residency is their first proper spat of shows. Their band has played a 7-night stand in Los Angeles in 2012. Todd's performance of looping 2002 hit Underneath It All and their faithful yet notable rendition of Talk Talk's 1984 classic, It's My Life, demonstrated that the band remains a formidable live unit. Stefani's voice, a touch of huskiness blend from identifiable vibrato escalated to a full belt during the climb, a true deep cut not performed since '97, and turned honey eyed for running into sweet undercurrent of hopefulness, com- compli- complemented by the pop up storybook enveloping the room. Canal, who bobbed around his sleeveless Purple Rain t shirt, Durant, whose guitar's close up elected cheers, and Young, the rhythmic anchor in the plaid vest, seemed to relish the revisiting of the thick black backbeats and snappy refillings of Hella Good and Happy Now. A nonstop current energizing zigzag through the crowd, and Stefani expressed a band's gratefulness of numerous times, calling the feeling, "This crazy exchange of love has never end." Consider how easy it can be for artists to be overwhelmed by the sphere's wizardry. Floating television sets, tumbling towers and of soup cans, and animated No Doubt tour posters were really integrated in and out through the show. The band managed to insert personal touches as well. Stefani pulled fans on stage a couple of times, once for her hug to help her lead the crowd through the slide to slide arm wave synonymous with spiderwebs, and another star for a bathwater song. There were moments not often seen at the Sphere, are reminded for a long with her high kicks, arm flailing, and effortlessly cool outfits. Stefani knows the meaning of small interactions. No Doubt never goes out of style. Before No Doubt barreled into the home stretch of including her 1992 debut single Trapped in a Box, which hasn't been played since 2002, the giddy Just a Girl is the band unspooled their biggest career smash. A peaceful camera stroll through the orange-groved bellied anguish, Stefani spills into Don't Speak, her voice still embedded with a wrenching ache in each word. Fans should look out for their following souvenirs during the ballad, even though it's challenging glanced beyond its riveting performance and encompassing video. No Doubt defining era was individualistic fashion and blurred musical lines between ska and pop. 3 decades after reaching their pinnacle, their sound and fury is still in style. Our next article. It's not last call for Jersey Show stars. Ralphie Aversa. It may be MTV's last call for the series Jersey Shore Family Vacation, but the show's cast members aren't quite ready to pile into a cab and leave the party yet. We still want to film and document our lives because there's a lot of stuff going on, said Snooki, age 38, tells USA Today before the show's final season, Thursday 8th, Eastern Pacific Time, streaming on Paramount+. She's joined by the 5 of her 8 castmates, and they are all in agreement. Everyone else has their own stuff going on in their lives. So hopefully we can start filming again, and we'll find a new home. If there was a camera crew with the cast at the moment, Pelosi would be documenting her battle with stage 1 cervical cancer. I'm sharing what has happened on my TikTok and doing interviews, stuff about awareness. That's more than just that. At this stage, I can fix it. I can be fine and be in remission and be cool. As the show's future, the cast feels optimistic. This won't be the last you'll see of them. We feel like it's going to happen soon, but, said Mike the Situation Senerto, age 43, says of a new deal as on another platform. He adds the cast is leaning into the idea of being free agents for the first time collectively in 17 years. I kind of like it, to be honest with you. We'll go to the highest bidder. Jersey Shore's cast reflects on The Note and the run on MTV. Jersey Shore premiered on MTV in 2009. It launched Snooki, The Situation, and the rest of the cast, Vinny G, Jenny J. Wow Farley, Polly, DJ Polly D, Samantha Sammy Sweetheart, and Ronnie Ortez Marco, into the pop culture icon lexicon. The Family Vacation crew also includes Angela Perfect and Dina Bunker, as Dina Cortez, and Dina Bunker Pervrick was season 1 Jersey Shore for 3 episodes before she was evicted from the home in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, which was the show was being filmed. Buckner joined Jersey Shore in season 3 as Pervrick's replacement. Ortez Gargano and Farley were both absent for the interview. No reason given, but the video emerged from an earlier interview on Sirius XM that shows Ortiz Margot, age 40, appeared to doze off mid-interview. The reality star has been open about her struggles with addiction and mental health. On Tuesday, he shared a series of posts of mental health on his Instagram story, noting that his appearance was a result of the side effects of the medication. Wanting to be with his castmates for a press tour celebration at the same time he was carrying the weight required to work through the effects of the public setting. I thought I could be strong enough to get through it, but what you saw was me trying to battle through my own toughest moments, said Ortez Margot. Longtime fans of Jersey Shore were well aware about the history of Ortez Margot and Galancola, who were on and off partners throughout the show's first run of MTV. Galancola didn't come back to the franchise until 2023. She explained to Entertainment Tonight that she didn't initially return when the Family Vacation premiered in 2018. I was in a good spot in my life and felt they're going back to the show may enter to some toxic situations again. In 2025, Galancola got married and had a child after infertility struggles. She not only returned to the show, but shared those moments publicly. I think it's so awesome that I was even able to come back and be accepted by my roommates again. Galancola, age 39. But I didn't regret leaving, and when I was ready, I come back. I was a little lucky that I got to be a part of it. Galancola and Palazzi are able to laugh at, quote, the infamous note, anonymous letter that Snooki and Jay Wild typed to Galancola to warn her about her then boyfriend, Ortez Margot, was fooling around behind her back at a nightclub in season 2. The text of it, specifically the opening, Sam, the first night at bed when you left, Ron made out with 2 girls and put his head between a cocktail waitress's breast, and has become part of the internet lore and spawned many memes. Galancola and Palazzi laughed at the letter and have seen so many memes. Our first season of Jersey Shore was continually kept us relevant because of how big it was, Sorrentino says. Every single high school, senior year, it's like a rite of passage to watch Jersey Shore. The kids are having Jersey Shore parties. They weren't even born yet when we were airing. I just feel like the new generation, they see us on TikTok. And from a media standpoint, this was the biggest change since we were introduced into the cast in 2009. The way viewers interacted with the show's content has drastically shifted. TikTok wasn't around, and the platform known as Twitter was in its infancy. And if the show started today with a bunch of 20-somethings who would be yelling, "Cab here!" or would be arguing about who calls an Uber, Sorrentino even wonders what the future of M&T holds. GTL. And they're going to turn back the movie, and they're going to turn it back into a music channel. Is it gonna totally end? But being MTV for almost 17 years, we're very grateful to be part of one of the most iconic platforms on Jersey Shore. One last article that I forgot from the sports section. What WNBA taught me about working motherhood by Kylie Flynn. I watched my smile begin to crack on Teams meetings. I could faintly hear my 6-month-old loudly babbling from another room as a new coworker offered some action items in a planning session for the story that you're reading now. I'm not sure how many photos and videos you took, but those would be great. My mind began to race. How much do I document my experience working as a Las Vegas ace beat writer during the 2025 WA Championship run? I was pregnant from start to finish, and I chronicled nearly every game of that historic season. The experience was empowering in many moments, connecting with the league's abundance of working moms in sports. I knew I had a few pictures and videos to share, but I wasn't proud of them. The difficult truth I was hiding is that I was hiding as soon as my belly began to show. I did it for reasons I wish I could go back and change. Instead, I'm left remembering how I felt maneuvering to the back of the group photo with a bunch of my media peers who were covering the WNBA finals after 37 weeks pregnant. It's trendy for expecting moms to disappear from social media or creatively disguising their stomach in photos until they welcome their babies. But I didn't do that because I wanted a stockpile Instagram like on a hard launch of my newborn. I did it because I was scared about how the news would be received. The journalism landscape is competitive and demanding, and I've been trying to prove that I can be a cut above the rest since I started writing for my college newspaper in 2019. I was terrified of how the perception of my dedication might change. But then I found myself diagnosed with pregnancy complications. Suddenly, I was confronted with a life-altering realization that the opinions about my career didn't matter as much as my baby's life, and mine. The only thing truly at risk was our health. That's a problem far too many of us fellow women in sports have experienced firsthand. You had so much potential. I spent something like 5 months in a building and building that courage to tell my boss, I need to go on maternity leave. A waste of mental energy. They were nothing but supportive. My fears weren't realized until I told one of my sports journalism peers who immediately eulogized my hopes and dreams. I hope you're kidding, he said. You had so much potential. Like a dagger through the heart. Yet somehow I managed to smile and laugh it off through the rest of the conversation. From that point of my pregnancy, I found myself answering and even volunteering answers about how I would maintain my level of work while pregnant. And once my baby was born, of course I shared I would hurry back to my job as soon as possible. How did I plan to advocate for myself and my baby? Did I know my risk factors for complications in science? No one has ever asked me about those questions. The USA was highest rate maternity deaths of any high-income country, according to a 2024 international study by the Commonwealth Fund. Outcomes for black women are the worst. We're 3 times more likely than the white Hispanic women to die from pregnancy-related complications, per the newest mortality numbers released in March by the CDC. I had preclasmaphesia, which is a persistent high blood pressure disorder that can develop during pregnancy or postpartum, and put both mom and baby in danger. Black women are 60% more likely to suffer for precalapesia while pregnant and developing severe cases compared to white women in the United States, according to the Agencies for Health Research and Quality. Allison Felix, my track and field Beyonce, had preclasmaphesia. Felix, a former teammate of USA, and Tori Bowie, was found dead at home from childbirth complications in 2023. Her autopsy cited eclampsia, seizures caused by paracalypsia, as one of the issues. In an essay calling for more awareness for maternal mortality crisis, Felix said that she went from being unaware of the risks of a pregnant woman to thinking she might not survive when it comes time to deliver. I was aware of the near-death experience she and tennis star Serena Williams faced during pregnancies. Even the real Beyonce had paracalypsia. Still, I landed in the same danger zone because I didn't know enough about the symptoms that left me vulnerable to keep me from being dismissed by doctors until one finally paid attention during my routine prenatal appointments after a couple hours before ACE's exit interviews. Swelling and high blood pressure readings were two of the concerns I raised before I was diagnosed. I was told multiple occasions that the swelling was an outdated symptom and uncommon. There were a few instances during my pregnancy where my blood pressure numbers were high, but those readings were disregarded due to discrepancies with the cuff or the fact that I was under 30 and otherwise healthy. The doctor who caught it decided it was to order an extra test, but she didn't wait for the results to schedule the induction. I was waiting for ACE's forward Kirsten Bell to speak when the doctors called me to tell me that there was protein in my urine, cementing the perichalaemia diagnosis and moving me up to the top of the induction list for that same day. Even though the doctor flagged my case as an emergency, the hospital where I was set to deliver eventually called to say it was full and would accommodate me when it had space. We waited around 12 more hours until my aunt, family practice doctor turned hospital executive, mother-in-law, a former ICU nurse pursuing a doctorate degree, and mom, always a queen, had seen enough. According to them, my swelling had increased rapidly. I had began to complain about my headaches and vision problems, not realizing they were symptoms. Instead of continuing to wait, my advocates arranged for me to be rushed to the emergency wing of our delivery hospital. I was admitted for monitoring until the delivery room became available. We narrowly avoided crisis, and I wonder how things would have unfolded if I did have seen a key family member advocating for the baby and me. Power of women's football. I received an apology for the comment made by my former coworker, made by my pregnancy ruining my career. We laughed about it now, but I carried it with me throughout every assignment. From NBA Summer League to a UNLV football spring scrimmage, I wondered if everyone in the media was looking at me and wondering if I had thrown my professional aspirations away. The only time I would avoid that feeling at work was when I was fulfilling my duties covering the women's basketball. ACE's coach, Becky Hammond, waited until I was 6 months pregnant to even think about acknowledging my growing belly. My back hurts, she said after the long practice. Yeah, mine too, I said with a grin, poking my stomach out. Hammond's eyes widened like an excited kid who was explained, "You're pregnant." For the rest of the season, Hammond was kind enough to entertain side conversations. We talked about baby names and motherhood. I even learned she had a relative who was pregnant at the same time as me. It wasn't uncommon for the members of the ACEs and the medical team to force me to sit down, drink some water, even when I was circling a court for sights and sounds or trying to find an interview subject. I have a million memories like this I'll cherish forever. I got parenting advice from Ajaz Wilson's mom and dad. I got delivery tips from Shanae Parker Tyrus and postpartum texts to give myself grace, both of which went further than you can ever imagine. UNLV women's basketball coach Lindy LaRocque sent me a message of support when she heard I was being induced. Before I returned home from maternity leave, she reached out and to check my son and me. All the kindness I received doesn't negate the reality that some people will never understand everything that comes from being a working mom, and I understood that. I still remember the coach calling me out by name during a fall recorded media scrum to welcome me back from maternity leave. He mentioned to everyone I took more time away from the job than I said I would. The sting of that experience happened in any job. The comments, the uncomfortable moments, and general stigma that working moms can do no longer be dedicated to their careers are universal. Even after years, women across the world showing people every day that they can do both. But every time I went through work at the women's basketball in Vegas, I was encouraged. That support came from all ACES staffers who quietly cheered when I shared my pregnancy with the start of the training camp, and then made my early wager that I missed the team's championship parade. Revisiting that bet and a lot that has happened with the Aces' tumultuous season, my sides of playful banter range from "what parade" to I'll deliver on the party bus if I have to. Ultimately, I didn't welcome my son until the day before the Aces championship parade. Freshly removed from a 24-hour drip of medication intended to prevent postpartum seizures, I watched the live stream of festivals on my phone from a dark hospital room of a most beautiful ball of warmth sleeping on my chest. From my bed, I would see the window occasionally sparkle with the tiny lights of the Las Vegas Strip in the distance. I didn't feel like I missed the parade. Even better, the reasons I celebrate every day now. I started a new national role this month where I get to tell stories of all kinds of women in sports. And one day, I'll get to tell my baby boy he made me better. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features of the USA Today for May 11th, 2026. We read the USA Today weekdays at noon. For more information, give us a call at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Your reader for this hour has been me, Brian Mandola. Hope you have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have episode number 6 of Ira Gershwin by Michael Owen. Following that, at 3 o'clock is Smithsonian Magazine, and at 4 o'clock, a re-airing of the Buffalo News. Stay with us. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We broadcast daily readings of printed matter to those who are blind or have a print disability throughout Buffalo, Western New York, and Southern Ontario's Niagara Peninsula. Almost 40 years and more than 300,000 hours of radio readings to those without sight. Our broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNET. Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service broadcast studios are at 1199 Harlem Road in Cheektowaga. Please let others know about your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. For more information, call us at 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, the following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability,